Welcome to Ask a Filmmaker.
Welcome to episode 3 of Ask a Filmmaker, and I am here with Melissa Farley. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a little crazy already. It was raining when you got here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to find where you were supposed to be.
Me too. I'm horrible with apartments, so I actually got here like 20 minutes early.
Oh,
and
nice.
I was like driving around. I'm on my phone with my mom, and I'm like, oh, I don't know where I am, mother, because it's dark, you know.
Well, if it's not on a call sheet with a map.
Oh, I'm horrible with maps
exactly.
too, though.
So I love maps. So I map everything out, and I always try to be someplace early. That's one of the things that I always do. But so I know you have a lot of things going. 2020,
Yeah.
right? I heard about Just Be Love project.
Yeah. So I've been friends with Anne for a while now, and I love her to pieces. And everything she does has, a mission to it and an advocacy. And so it's always has this purpose. And that's something that I've been drawn to from day one since Anne. Plus, she's like, can I cuss on this show?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Please, it's going to happen. So just
Anne
do
is
it.
like, no bullshit.
Right.
She's a very real person. And that's hard to find
Yeah.
in the community sometimes. And so I was just really drawn to her and what she does. And so she just asked me to be on the board for the Just Be Love
Nice.
nonprofit organization, which is launching. And we're having our first board meeting on Saturday, actually.
Oh, that's
And
so great.
yeah, there's big plans coming up. So lots of content that we've got in the works, and really highlighting other great nonprofits in the Valley, and again, just work that is a really good cause. And Anne's been really trying to make art and content that is documentary focused, and so she's continuing on that journey, and I'm just really honored to have been asked to be a part of it.
No, that's so. I love working first in the nonprofit world myself personally, but I think when you're in an industry and then you can actually do it with the things that you love doing, for instance, like film and acting or producing or anything like that. It's an incredible way to actually live your life when you can do everything you love and it all fits together.
Yeah.
Right. So I've always been so excited to see all the different things that you do, though, because you've had kind of a very strong career in media and doing a lot of different, film type things as well as film, and then being behind the camera.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about where you've come from in your career and where you're going based on where you're at today.
Well, I always had the split life thing going on, where, I was putting in tons of hours at the USA Today network. Most of my career was done locally at the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, but then I got moved up to USA Today, which was awesome, and I learned a lot, and it was a very rewarding experience. But it turned to where I couldn't keep doing the creative stuff. I got promoted to management, and so that really soaks up a lot of your life source.
Yes.
And so up until that point, I had been acting for like 10 years, which was my first love. And then right before the management position happened, I was able to direct my first feature film. So that was a really cool opportunity. And then literally for like a year, it was nothing, nothing, no creative outlet, nothing.
Oh gosh,
So
that's tough, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I could survive without doing anything creative at all.
You go crazy.
I would go crazy.
I literally went crazy. I did. And I was like, okay, and my husband's so loving and sweet. And so it was like, we had this very honest conversation of like, yeah, you got to do something. Like, you got to change how this is happening because, you're sort of a miserable person. And I was like, no, I am. And so, as you know, I quit. I quit my job, which was terrifying and also very freeing. And so I committed to myself to take 3 months, which I'm at the tail end of. December's my last month, to really just ground myself, focus on what really is going to matter to me now, and get to know myself again. And then 2020 kind of come out swinging again. So
no, that's great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people forget. You get stuck into the day-to-day of things that you're doing, and I can remember when I kind of made my flip into the entrepreneurial world, I already knew from in high school that I would always have my own company, and I knew kind of how I wanted to set it up. But there had to be an external catalyst
Yeah.
that pushed me into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because you don't think what you can do. You don't think it's possible sometimes. But I mean, even before it happened for me, I had my company name 2 months before
Right.
my actual catalyst trigger happened. And then I went full throttle.
Yeah.
Like from that moment, I was like, I'm never going to do, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm always going to have my own company. I don't care what else happens.
Yeah.
I don't care whatever. And that was kind of just my mindset at that time, because I was like, well, here's my opportunity to take it and run with it. And I'm so glad I did, because part of the thing that I did, just like you were missing the creative piece, I had no creative outlet with what I was doing. I tried, but I just couldn't get it done that way. So when I started my company, that was what I baked in.
Yeah.
So I think it's true for a lot of people, that you get into a field or you get into wanting to do the thing that you love, but somehow you have to usually support it up front until you can start to make money and monetize it. And that's one of the things that I think people forget. Well, you still have to eat.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to pay the bills, but that's what I always tell people. It was an accidental career, and everybody's like, for 10 years. I'm like, yeah, because you get comfortable.
Right.
You get so used to getting a paycheck, and it becomes something that you just don't know how to walk away from after a certain point, and so that was a challenge for me. And when I did it, I feel like I did it the way that made sense for me. I saved up enough money to where I knew that if I couldn't work for 6 months, I was going to be okay. And, I knew that I had enough money to spend like how I had been living for those 6 months if I needed to.
Nice.
And then I really gave myself permission to say no. And that was new for me, because it was like, because I love acting, because I had missed doing creative work, it was like I was just kind of saying yes to anybody that threw me a bone again, and when you're kind of more senior in the industry, it gets weird when you start doing that again. And so it was like, I had to start saying no, and not just to projects, but, to lots of things in my life, to start making space for the new things that I wanted. And, one of those new things is we are launching a company in 2020 as well called Inspired By. And it's really cool. I mean, it's like all the things I love that are now going to be my business,
Nice.
So,
I love to hear
that. And it's,
That's so great.
it's origin stories. It's
nice.
Creators and artists and people that are in fashion and lots of different industries. And we are going and doing, I talk about my husband a lot, but he's got like 13 Emmys. He's an amazing videographer. So he's going to really be doing the behind the camera stuff. But we're going to be telling really incredible stories of not just how things are made, but, their life and their passion and their, the why behind the thing. And I am so excited to bring that to life. I'm so excited to have, it's going to be an integrated marketplace. So like, if you like the stuff that you're seeing them make, you can buy right on our site and support local.
That's great.
So that's really cool. We're going to do an Inspired by Travel section, which, I love traveling. So it's going to have a couple different facets. But we're pumped about that, and so that's been a lot of where my brainstorming energy has been going. I started writing my book again. I stared writing a book back in last December.
Oh my gosh.
It's been literally a year. And so finally I picked it back up and working on that again. And then we've got, I know everybody is like, the gold standard is feature films, but I'm like, that exhausted me. It took so much of my life.
Yeah.
So we have a couple ideas for short films, and one of them is heavy on CGI and effects, which is new for us.
Nice.
So we're kind of just taking some time, doing some tests, like trying to figure out how to make it work before we actually get actors on a set. And, we want to make sure we know what we're doing. So, yeah.
No, that's really cool. I was at American Film Market. So to your point about feature films and then also kind of the CGI stuff, short films are in.
Yeah.
Short films are in.
Oh,
Documentaries
good.
are in. The trend is coming in that area.
Cool.
One of the reasons why I went was to really understand what was happening in the marketplace. So I think it's perfect timing for you to, kind of do that. Now, feature films will always be in. I mean, I just saw this report about like the last 4, unique IPs that came out recently where they weren't from a previous series or anything like that.
Okay.
It's new ideas for
Yeah.
films, and they're all doing really, really successful. And so it's like, oh yeah, feature films coming back to cinema. Great. I love feature films. I love short films.
Yeah.
I love it all. But from the standpoint of when you're in an independent situation, short films are obviously they're easier, but you can turn them quicker, right? And I think you can tell more stories like you're probably wanting to do. So.
And that's, I mean, we love telling stories. I mean, especially my husband who's been in journalism for 20 years, you know, it's all about the story for him. And for me, I've been obsessed with Disney. Everybody knows that about me. But, you know, what I don't think a lot of people understand is like, I'm not just obsessed with Disneyland. Like, I'm obsessed with Bob Iger and Walt Disney and how they run the company, how they make storytelling the core focus of everything they do in that business. And so I've done a lot of reading and research about the company and, you know, how they approach everything. And so for us, you know, it all goes back to story. And that's kind of where we want to make sure that we stay centered moving forward in 2020. And so that's why shorts, I think, for us make a lot of sense, you know, because it's like, look at the Pixar shorts, you know, as a great example. Like, oh my God, I cry every time, you know, there's one of those little Pixar shorts and they're so powerful and like a gut punch. And they're shorts, you know, and it's something that I'm not saying we're going to be Pixar level, but, you know, that is our aspiration, right? To create something like that. So
that's awesome. I mean, I love animation, and I got to look at through the film festival that I have. Like, there's some really great animation and things that they're doing different. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in love with that. And experimental film, because a lot of that kind of bleeds over back and forth. I got to try a little VR when I was over at AFM too. And I'm like, I know you love VR. So.
I do. I do.
So tell me about some experiences with VR that you've had.
You know, I think VR is one of those things that I still feel like it's really a challenge for people to do good storytelling utilizing the VR technology. I don't know that I've had a fully like seamless experience yet with that. But you know, some of the cool things that I saw most recently, it wasn't even that recent, but it was at the AT&T Shape Conference. You know, there was a Game of Thrones. It wasn't virtual reality, it was augmented reality. And so you put on these glasses and you're basically battling, you know, night walkers, and you're, you know, you're doing all this stuff. And it was the most detailed experience that I'd had. But the thing that I thought was really cool is, I wish I could remember what the name of the phone. Oh, Hydrogen. It's a red Hydrogen. It's the maker of the red camera.
Oh, okay.
They made a phone. And
oh, geez.
It's not a great phone, but like you can watch videos on it that were specifically filmed for the red Hydrogen, and they look 3D, phenomenally, beautifully 3D without any sort of glasses. And it's so crazy. It's so weird to look at this phone and see, like, experience a film in that way, because you feel like you're in it. Like, and you know, I watched part of Shazam when I saw the test, and then I also did another VR experience with space. NASA is really stepping up their game with using virtual reality and partnering with filmmakers to do some really incredible stuff.
Gosh, that's amazing.
And that was by far one of the coolest things I've ever
That is
done.
Insane. Like,
and AT&T Shape, this is not necessarily a filmmaking comment, but they invited a female astronaut to come speak.
Oh, wow.
And I tell you what, I don't know what it was, but she stepped on stage, and it was like unlike anything I've ever felt before. I mean, I was moved to tears. Like, it was just so remarkable to be in a room with somebody who had been in space, you know. And I thought maybe it was just me, and then I look around and it was like everybody. Yeah, it was like,
oh my gosh,
you know,
I've got
just
goosebumps.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing. So
oh wow.
But you know, some of the other things that are happening right now that I think that I'm really interested in are one of the things they talked about too is they have AI that where they can set up cameras while you watch a film, and it gauges your emotional response, and then will give you different endings based off of your emotional responses.
There was a movie in my first year of film festival that was specifically about that
Really?
technology. That was just 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was a little weird, and it's not perfect. Wow. They said it's about 86, I think, % accurate, which is pretty good. So they had this film where it put you actually in a riot, and based off of like what your response was, it would either like put you in an interaction with a police officer, or it would put you getting arrested, or it would put you, you know, whatever, depending on if you got angry or if you got scared, whatever. And so, again, I think the storytelling components are still weird for filmmakers trying to work with this, but I saw a lot of practical applications. Like, you know, when you think about people that have emotional challenges or anger management issues, even in prisons, you know, if you can work with that kind of situation with this type of film and this kind of AI, I thought that would be a really cool, you know, sort of real life use for that. But so I'm curious to kind of see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think about the applications until you actually have that experience. So you tried right? Yeah. You tried it. So was there physical sensation that you also had as a result of that? Or did it turn into physical sensation at all?
I mean, you just get, you know, I think you get triggered, you know, and it reads your facial expressions, and it reads kind of what happens with your eyes. And so I think it just kind of really depends on the person too. Right, yeah. And then you kind of want to try it multiple times to be like, okay, I got mad that time, and I'm not going to get mad this time, you know? And it's like, so it's kind of, it creates a little bit of a, you know, again, it's integrative storytelling. It's when you're part of it, you know. And the other thing I thought that was really fascinating from that conference, I really actually want to go to the one you went to, but the one that I really thought was funny, they had an AI, a computer or a program that basically wrote entire scripts. Oh, wow. And they had actors act them out as written. And they were ridiculous, you know. It was like,
that is so funny.
It was really fascinating, you know, to see some of just like the hilarious, and it was like you'd get kind of a sense of what it was trying to do, and like, you know. And so as of right now, I feel like screenwriters don't need to be worried about AI taking over their jobs just yet.
I'm not quite sure. Like, I don't think that will be a problem.
Yeah,
maybe cooking or something like that. Maybe. Laundry, I could totally use that.
It'll get better. I mean, it'll get smarter. But right now, it was kind of like, oh, those are fun. Okay.
I guess I mean, because there's that emotional and visceral thing that comes when you're writing a story, I feel, and trying to convey messages. And that's like, for me, I feel like, you know, film for me is my visual canvas of what I paint on to tell my story and to share my message and to bring another writer's, you know, voice to life.
Right.
And that's what I enjoy so much about that, but also my own ability to be able to write that kind of content as well. So I think that's really exciting that you're delving into that. And then of course with your book, I mean, you're writing your book, and tell us a little bit, you don't have to go into all the details on that, but just share what, you know, where you're going with that.
It's a dark comedy. Nice. At least right now it is. I don't know. But you know, it's loosely based on my life in my 20s, but not entirely. It's just kind of the character has some similarities. But essentially, it's about her father is either missing or dead. She's not quite sure. And then it's Christmas Eve, and she's watching the news alone in her apartment eating Chinese food, and she thinks she sees him in this background of a crowd in New Mexico, and so she decides to go try to find him.
Oh my gosh.
And so there's going to be weird UFOs.
Oh, nice.
And,
I love
you know, it's just going to be kind of Western, because, you know, I love the Southwest and the desert.
Nice.
And but again, it's definitely some dark undertones. And
that's great. Well, I was just in New Mexico, and what's funny is, like, when you said that, I'm already visualizing like this town and things that can happen, because it'd been a while since I'd been there. And it, like, Albuquerque, to me, I didn't have like an affinity to it, but now that I've come back years later, I'm like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And
it's quirky and funky.
Yeah, it is. And it is like my kind of town, because it is like that. So,
I loved Albuquerque. I used to have a film festival that screened in Albuquerque, which was great. And then I love Santa Fe and Taos. And then I told Pat, like, obviously I have to do a research trip,
Of
to
course.
to Roswell.
Anybody else to record that while you're going?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. So there's hopefully going to be some fun road trips in the
no.
future to do some research and stuff. And I've got a couple pals that are like way more UFO enthusiasts and experts than me. So I'm going to kind of chat with them so my stuff isn't super cheesy when I do touch on those parts. And
that's going to be great.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, it's, there's a lot of autobiographies and things like that. So I was very refreshed and surprised when you said dark comedy, because I'm like, I love dark comedies. Yeah, they're great.
I would love to have it turn into a film, honestly.
Wow.
I
well,
would.
It totally sounds like it has the potential for that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it would be cool. It's like I said, it's weird. It's kind of like if you've seen any of like Simon Pegg's, later stuff, it kind of has a vibe like that. Nice. It's very real life, flawed humans, but weird things happening too. And
well, of course, with anything UFO, it's always weird humans.
I know.
So, but I love UFOs, so
right?
I'm like, I'm totally that weird human. So.
I know, I am too. So yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I was inspired by two books specifically called Eileen, which is really dark. It's not a comedy, so don't read it if you think it's comedy. It's just dark. Okay. But that's being actually turned into a film.
Nice.
But I was inspired by that, and then I was also inspired by a book called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And
I've heard of that.
It's really, for me, one of my big things is mental health advocacy. I battle depression, and this character was so relatable and so charming, and I fell in love with it. And so after reading those two books, I was kind of like, I got some dark, weird things I want to
nice.
write
I love
too.
it. Well, and isn't it funny, the littlest things that inspire you?
Yeah.
Right? And so you're inspired by, it makes perfect sense, because it just goes along with that there's so much that happens first in real life, but I think part of the reason why I love film so much is I consider it escapism. Hello. Yeah. I mean, I like to make films that I can not live out fantasies, but but I like to do things that I wouldn't be able to do normally in the real reality of the day, and to get away from the things that really I just don't need to be worrying about.
See, I think it's funny because I feel like that's where I am now. I think when I started as an actor, it was almost like an exercise in being like, it was a cathartic experience for me, because I had so much stuff that I just didn't work through in my life, that to go play these dark characters, because I was always the messed up one, right? Like I was always the girl you cast if you needed to cry or needed a drug addict, or whatever. And so it was like, but so I got to really explore some of those sides of myself that I think I was afraid to explore in real life. And so that's when I started being like, oh, with acting, you can really not just learn something about somebody else, you learn about what's inside yourself, and how you respond to these imaginary circumstances. And so it was a very psychological experience for me.
I think all of it is psychology. I mean, I live off of psychology. I mean, it's part of even my communication style. Like, I'm always studying how people communicate, and then how to better communicate, I guess. Right. And all of it is really psychology. It's it's how do you trigger people, and how do you get them to understand why what they do triggers you, and and stuff. So I think it's really smart. I mean, honestly, because and I think being able to express it, you found your outlets to be able to do that, which I think is really important. And not only as a filmmaker, but just an artist in general. If you're the artist type, which there's a wide range of artists, and there's a lot of different types that fall into the category of artists. But if you're any kind of creative at all, I mean, you have to have these outlets available to you.
You do.
And, you bring up the thing of mental health, and I've always been, obviously, the same, a big, huge advocate for mental health and education, and, and providing tools and ways for people to cope, because a lot of it is just that. It's, people, hey, you can check in on somebody, but can you actually give them something that they can use themselves, right, to help cope with what they're dealing with? Or
sometimes, too, it's them realizing that they are not alone. And that sounds so cheesy, you hear that a lot. But that was when I used to blog regularly, or when I would do some of those films that I would do that had kind of the flawed characters. time and time again, I would get so many messages from people that were like, oh my God, I never had any idea other people felt that way or thought that or experienced this.
Right.
And it was this like affirming moment for them that no, you're not weird. There's nothing wrong with you. Like,
Right.
you know, and so that was really what I wanted to do with a lot of my work, was just spark conversation, you know, because, and I think it's going in a really good direction. I've seen a lot of progress with mental health. I've seen a lot more open conversations about how people
definitely.
are really feeling and handling things. And so I'm encouraged by what I've seen.
No, that's good.
But there's still a lot
there's-
more work to be
there's
done.
still a lot of work to be done. And so I think, you know, I know we've done a lot of events together where, you know, we've kind of put ourselves in the middle of the community to be as resources.
Right.
And that's the thing. This is kind of why I wanted to bring you on the show too, is because, I mean, really, seriously, you're like the person to be around because no, for real. I mean, you do a lot of amazing things. You highlight what other people are doing, and then you share your talents with the world, and you're just such an enjoyable person to be around.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's been a big shift for me, honestly, was one of the things I really wanted was everywhere I went, whoever I interacted with, I just wanted them to feel welcome and accepted. And so, you know, when I do events, when I go out in public now, when I, you know, whatever, it's not, I don't need anything from you. Like, you know,
exactly.
it's like if you want to work with me, if we want to create together, if we inspire each other, awesome. But like, I don't need anything from you. I just want to get to know you. And I think having more authentic interactions like that is only going to build the entire community up, you know. And I see people like Anne and you and so, you know, some other folks doing and operating in that same way, and it's just a really good thing, and I hope that more people can feel comfortable enough to start doing that too, you know.
I know. And that's why, I mean, I always, you know, I posted the other day about if you're bored, I can make you unbored. That's not a problem. I have a long list of things happening. So
you are everywhere doing everything all the time. But that's, I mean, I've posted about how much I love how much you support other people and other artists.
I really appreciate that.
It's so incredible, you know. It's like you are everywhere. No, but seriously, you're everywhere uplifting others, doing what they do. And I think that is so cool because you just don't see that from a lot of people, you know. If they're not in the project or if they're not involved, I'm not going to that thing.
Yeah, and I know
you are the opposite. You're like, I'm there.
I know.
You're my friend. I'm there.
I'd rather not have anything to do with it, so I can actually have
Enjoy
a good time. Let me just tell
Right?
you. Well, I mean, because I work my events, and I have like my regular people that I, you know, do a lot of stuff with, and they all know when I'm in work mode, I'm in work mode.
Right.
Forget me having. I don't care. I'm taking care of everybody else. That's what I do. So when I get to go to an event, and actually I'm just cheering for everybody. Oh, I mean,
It's fun.
I am the biggest cheerleader too.
Yeah.
I am no joke when it comes to that. So I appreciate you saying that because, you know, for me, it's like I don't even think twice about it. It's just like, no, I'm going to go and support so and so. I'm going to go and support whatever, because I know when I was growing up, I don't feel like I didn't have that kind of support.
I get you. Yeah.
And so it was something that I think I
Wanted to
always
give to
wanted.
others, yeah.
And because I didn't get it, it's like, well, I'm going to flip it around, and I'm not going to let somebody think that they don't have anybody there supporting them.
See, that's great. You
I
broke
just-
the cycle. That's that's exactly what I admire about you. You know, I think that's remarkable. But it's so true. Like, you know, people would see Pat and I traveling on work trips all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you must be having so much fun." And I'd be like, "If you only knew." Like, you know, I mean, we would have fun moments, but I mean, it's different. Your mindset is different. It's hard to relax. You're like, you know, it's just a totally other experience.
It is absolutely. And that's why I love what you've done with the idea of your company. I mean, it's like what I did. I created my company around things I love. You're doing that. And this is what I totally coach and push people to only do what you love.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I'm like the, you know, super Nazi, but I'm like, no, only do what you love. Because it's like, I don't understand how you can do what you love.
No cubicle for you.
Exactly, right? No, I'm totally that person. It's like, oh, if you want to change your life, I can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, I feel like a lot of artists have the same struggle that I do, which is something I'm going to blog about soon. I'm going to start blogging again. Yay. You know, the world considers a lot of what I do and do well soft skills. And, you know, so that's stuff like, you know, my husband or you even, you know, you guys can edit and you know these programs and those are hard skills, right? That you could put on a resume.
Yes, exactly.
And for me, it's like, I manage people really well. I'm super empathetic. You know, it's like all these, they're really important things that really make stuff work.
Yes.
But they're not, you know, the hard skills. And so, you know, what I'm learning though is like, all of that, how much I care, how much I want to focus on like my customer and my audience, those are what's going to make me successful with my business, you know? And so that's where you turn those skills into marketing skills, you know, and you turn them into management skills. And so that's what I'm in the process of learning is how to, that even helped me as a director, you know? So like, I guess my big preachy message is like, they're not, yes, they're soft skills, but they're not squishy skills. You know, they are
they're
so
relevant.
valuable.
I mean, they are relevant. And I think usually people are in an extreme, they're an A-type personality, so they can only do this and they can't do the, you know, the right and left brain. It really goes back to that, right? But if you can have that, really, it's almost more important in my opinion, because your ability to reach and connect to people is what brings them in, and then the rest of it comes naturally, right? So
it's all about relationships. I mean, and that was something that working in corporate America for the longest time, doing social media for one of the hugest media companies, it was like they cared so much about the numbers, right?
Oh, God.
The numbers,
And I hate numbers.
and metrics. And for me, it was like I kept having to remind them each one of those numbers, that is a person. It's a person. And I care about connecting with the people. I understand what they are telling me they want. I want to give that to them. Don't get in my way, you know, like don't let your metrics get in my way.
I get it. I understand. So that's very noble. And I think it shows where your heart is. And I love that. So
my heart is always on my sleeve, good or bad, you know.
Me too. So yeah, I get it.
But I appreciate you letting me take some time to talk about what I've got coming up in 2020.
I'm so excited because I already know, I've heard from so many people, 2020 is like,
it's a good year,
things
right?
are happening. Yeah, it's a fantastic year. So tell us how we can get a hold of you and follow you and all of that for the audience.
I am, I took a little social media break, but I'll be back in January. And so I am all over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me at the Mel Farley on Twitter, and then just my Melissa Ann Marie Farley on Facebook, and official Melissa Farley on Instagram. And I have an email address. It's melissa@funsizeproduction. If you want to work together, feel free to shoot me an email. And inspired by, the website has not launched yet, but when it does, I'll blast it all over social. And please sign up for the newsletter once we get that going. I'll be doing a monthly newsletter with updates and really cool stuff. So yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and I'm going to get this out as soon as possible. I've got another one in the backlog, so I'll be working on that. But I hope to see you at the Worldwide Women's Film Festival in February. It's going to be a little crazy, so it'll be great to have you there. And I'm sure I'll be bringing you back on the show. So this is not over. This is just a little break.
You'll be seeing me again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.